Hello, this is Daniel Mart, and today I'm going to be doing another theory video. This one's going to be, I guess, a business political theory in a sense. Basically, this is going to be me explaining the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So for those who don't know about it, this happens in 1929, February 14th, 1929 to be more specific. Hence, why it's called the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. So yeah, that be how long ago would that be? That be let me think for a second. Let me see 39, 49, 49, 59, 69, 79, 89, 99, 09. That'd be 80. Well, what? Yeah, like 86 years, I believe. So yeah, almost 86 years. So yeah, basically for those who don't know anything about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, it happened on Valentine's Day, 1929, February 14th, 1929. And basically it was given that name because six mob bosses or mob gang members, whatever. Six mob gang members and one of their mechanics was their mechanics from the North Side Irish gang were killed in a garage. They were all led by Bugs Moran during the Prohibition era. So yeah, basically, first off, let's just get to know the time at this point. It's Chicago, 1929. You have the Prohibition. You have rampant prostitution, rampant drugs, rampant gang dealing, gang bangs, and gang anything. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, and some of the biggest mob bosses of the time are Bugs Moran and Al Capone. So yeah, and basically the North Side Irish gang and the South Side Italian gang, led by Bugs Moran and then Al Capone respectively, they both hated each other. So yeah, now there's also a small group, the Egan Rats, who are suspected to possibly be within this whole mess as well. So yeah, basically, story goes that you have these four or five guys. I believe they said four guys, and they're all trying to kill Bugs Moran. They're all from the Italian gang, and they're all trying to kill Bugs Moran and some of his people. Two of them are dressed as officers, and two of them are dressed in their civilian clothes, which at the time would have been suits, tuxedos, hats, and their Tommy guns. Yeah, a Tommy gun. For those who don't know what a Tommy gun is, it's like a really early machine gun. It usually has a barrel with like 20 or 30 rounds right there. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. Search them up if you haven't already. I believe the Joker used it in the original Batman movie, all the way back like in 1982 or whatever, or 1982, 1983. The first Batman movie, I believe Joker used that type of gun. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. And also Al Pacino used it in Scarface, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So it has been around. So yeah, basically they say that these four people, two of them dressed as police officers and the other two dressed in their tuxedos. Story goes that all four of them rounded up all seven members of the North Side Irish gang and just straight up killed them. They thought one of them was Bugs Moran due to the way that he was dressed and his height and just the way he was looked. And it didn't make it any better because that day, this one guy, this guy really literally did dress, really similar to how Bugs Moran dressed that day. So yeah, now who are the victims in this case? You have Peter Gusenberg, who was a frontline enforcer for the Moran organization. Frank Gusenberg, who's the brother of Peter Gusenberg. And they say that this guy, Frank Gusenberg, he was still alive. He was the only one alive. But despite being alive, he and having 14 bullets in his body, he said he would only say nobody shot me. And he died about 3 hours later after the attack. Many people speculate the reason why he said nobody shot me is because one, he thought because of his masculinity, and whatever. Two, because he possibly didn't feel it or something like that, something along the lines that I really don't know how that really goes. But I'm pretty sure you'd feel getting shot, especially 14 times. And one of the more believable ones is, despite the fact that they are enemies, the Al Capone gang and the Bugs Moran gang are enemies, despite the fact that they are enemies, there is a code of honor between gang members, and that is you don't tell on each other or something like that. So yeah. Next up you have now the third victim is Albert Kachalek, also known as James Clark, and he was Moran's second in command. Next up will be Adam Hayer, who is the bookkeeper and the business manager for the Moran gang. You also have Reinhard Schwimmer, who was an optician. I don't know how to say it. Optician, who abandoned his practice due to the fact that he was gambling on horses and he kept losing, and hence he was associated with the Moran gang. He called himself an optometrist, even though he really had like no license within that type of medical field. That's anybody who does medical stuff on the eye, by the way. Next up, you have Albert Weishank, who managed several of the cleaning and dyeing operations of the Moran associations, and this is the guy who resembled Bugs Moran that day. It includes the clothes he was wearing, which allegedly set the massacre in motion. And then you also have the mechanic, John May. He said not to really be part of the gang, but due to the fact that he needed money, he did work for the gang. So he worked for them, but he wasn't part of it. He was a car mechanic. And yeah, I mean, he did have 2 arrests earlier, but really there was nothing really aside from that. You know, in some aspects, he was just a family man trying to serve for his wife and 7 children, and he just accepted the job because he knew it would pay well. So yeah, as I said before, those are the victims. Now, many people don't really know exactly who killed the people. They don't really know, who was involved, who the suspects are. So I mean, some of the prime suspects include, aside from Al Capone, will include Cosa Nostra, yeah, Cosa Nostra is that a person or a place? Because it sounds like a place. Yeah, the Cosa Nostra, which is a Sicilian mob, and some of their people apparently is John Scalise and Albert Anselmi. They are some of the most named people to have possibly caused this, aside from Al Capone. So yeah, aside from that, I don't think you have anybody else. I mean, it's just really those 2 are the major names that pop up. As I said before, the murder weapons are Thompson submachine guns, aka Tommy guns. So yeah, I mean, they do have the serial numbers. One of the guns is called Gun 2347, again by the serial numbers, and the other one is 7580. They say that the Gun 2347 was purchased on November 12th, 1924 by Les Farmer, a deputy sheriff in Marion, Illinois, hinting the fact that this possibly could have been stolen, which was normal at the time, even from a police officer. And then Gun 7580 had been sold at a Chicago sporting goods had been sold at a Chicago sporting goods by a guy called Peter von Franzius, and he sold it to a Victor Thomas, hence the name of Tommy Gun. So yeah, after some time, James Bozo Shoop would somehow get that particular gun, and yeah, and as of yet, both of these guns are still in the possession of the Barron County Sheriff Department in St. Joseph's, Michigan. So yeah, I mean, overall it's a pretty interesting topic. I mean, just the way they were murdered and all that. I mean, there are a few things such as the Bolton revelation, which I'm not really gonna get into because the place I'm looking at it's really that the whole thing they're explaining it's really long, but it appears to have the FBI written all over it. Now, the possible motives for this are, aside from rivalry, there are a few other motives stated as to why the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happened, aside from rivalry. And it's mostly due to the time. Because during this time you have prohibition, which means no drinking, and to a lesser extent no drugs. But who's actually gonna pay attention to that in the 1920s? You also have the market crash, which later leads into the depression. So you do have a few things going for it. You also have speakeasies or speak houses where you have where people go to drink illegally. Um, so yeah, I mean, many people. How do I say? Many people. I don't know exactly how to word it. Um, for a lack of a better term or lack of a better phrase, many people are fascinated by the way these people were murdered. Aside from the fact that they were shot up, but who was responsible for it, and also due to the time, people are fascinated because there is no clear-cut motive. So yeah, now they did investigate Al Capone and where he was at the time of the murder and blah 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 blah. Al Capone at that time, he had a beach house down in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, Key West, somewhere in that area. So they say that he went there and he has a solid alibi due to that. Now, just because he was down there doesn't mean he wasn't part of it. That he didn't plan it. So there is also some speculation that he did plan it, he just wasn't part of it, which is pretty smart. Just go there, have a solid alibi, and then I mean, you could plan it, but they're not gonna capture you for it, or at least not that. And especially Al Capone. By the way, Al Capone, if you guys don't know, he went down in the most dumbest motherfucking way for him to go down. During the time of prohibition, drugs, prostitution, and who the hell knows what else. The one thing they arrested him for was tax evasion. Like, what the fuck? I mean, aside from the St. Valentines Massacre, he has killed either directly or indirectly. He has killed several people. He was one of the leading men in prohibition and prohibition rebellion or rebellions against the prohibition, whatever. Robbing from banks and all that. And the one thing that takes him down is fucking tax evasions. That must be one of the dumbest ways to go down, especially for a man of his caliber. Because because despite the fact that he was a criminal, people actually did respect him. Like, the regular civilians actually did respect him because, he was actually doing stuff for the greater good. It's just that the government, being the dicks they are, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, overall, this is a really fascinating topic. So yeah, on the day of St. Valentine's Day, where it's all love, chocolate, balloons, and sex, I decided to talk about murder. Yay. Yeah, typical me. But yeah. St. Valentine's. I mean, this is the closest thing I could think of for something for St. Valentine's Day. I'm being honest. I couldn't really find a conspiracy theory for a movie or TV show or whatever. About love or something about that. I mean, I found one, but I didn't really want to do it. I found one, but it just didn't. It's one I need to make a bit more research on, and this one I am, as opposed to this one that I already know a bit more on. So I thought, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, just explain it a bit, makes sense. So yeah, this is basically the St. Valentine's Day Massacre explained. There are a few other things about it, such as the Bolton revelations and some possible other murder weapons, as well as the events that happened right before and after the actual murder. And yeah, and by the way, the place this happened was at the warehouse at Dickens and Clark in Lincoln Park, Chicago. So yeah, I mean, I will leave a couple links down below for those who want to check out a bit more on this. I'll leave a page down to it as well as a video documentary on it. Because I really do think, because stuff like this for some reason interests me. I want to do this one. I want to do in the future. I don't know how or when I'm going to be able to do it, but it's going to be Columbine explained. I want to do that one really bad because I know it's just wrong, but for some reason Columbine, that shit interests me like a fucker. I have no idea why. Yeah, I'm dark as fuck sometimes, and Columbine, just the nature of it, I think just interests me. I don't know why. I mean, I know the guys are crazy and whatnot, but Columbine, I want to do one of those one day. Explain it. So yeah, I will leave a couple of links down below. Sorry about that. But I will leave a couple links down below. One for the Wikipedia article and one for maybe for this documentary I watched on it, or it goes a bit more in depth into it with the Bolton revelations, which is a huge part. I just really don't know how to explain the Bolton revelations because they actually do confuse me a bit. I read it a couple of times and it kind of confused me a bit, but it's basically about how the FBI, I believe it was this guy named Bolton or something like that, something about Bolton, this guy named Bolton, and how he was trying to, and how they were trying to get, it's basically how the FBI was trying to get other gang organizations into the mix and seeing if that makes sense with this and that, such as the Baker gangs, for example, and the Purple House gang or something like that. J. Edgar Hoover was involved in it to some degree as well. So yeah, it's mostly some FBI stuff. So yeah, and it really goes after, because it goes from when it happened in 1929 all the way to 1973. So it really does go a long way for the Bolton revelations. But I'm not really gonna get into that. So yeah, I mean, that's basically it for me explaining the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, what happened, who died, who was possibly involved, and all that other good stuff. And yeah, again, link down below for a video, documentary, which is about an hour and a half based on it, as well as a Wikipedia article down below for those who want to check it out. And yeah, that's basically it for now. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, and comic book reviews. Comment down below on your thoughts on this video. What are your thoughts on the Valentine's Day Massacre? What are your thoughts on it? And do you want me to do more explanatory videos such as this, in which I explain, either a movie or a TV show, or maybe a crime such as this, or Columbine or something you want me to explain? Because I have done them in the past. I did the Gremlins Rule Explained, and I also did the Death Rules Explained for the Final Destination series. So I have done a few of these in the past. But aside from that, that's basically it for now. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, and comic book reviews. Comment down below your thoughts on the video. On the topic, sorry. Like the video, share on Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, or whatever you guys prefer. And that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.